Hey everybody, welcome to Sounds Like Liberty. This is episode 39 with the Launchpad Media, always launching new ideas in your direction. I am your host.
Are you sure there are new ideas, Liz? I thought they were just launching ideas in a new direction.
Okay.
I'm going to be honest. I could tell in that read. You're a little tired.
I'm a little tired.
Yeah, you sound a little tired.
I am a little tired.
Okay. See, I'm actually a little tired, but I sound way less tired.
Okay.
I've got that animation because I'm a cartoon character.
Okay.
You gonna fight me? Do you want to fight me? Let's start some fisticuffs. Get the morning started out right. Anyways, folks, as Lizzie said, it is episode 39 of the Sounds Like Liberty podcast with the Launchpad Media, always launching ideas in your direction. We're gonna have a fun one today. We are talking to Mr. Chris Spangle a little bit later on. I'm gonna throw some happy golden oldies at you for our analysis, and we got some fun stuff on the I Heard This Happen this week. But let's get right into it. No belaboring. I'm not gonna pitch anything to you quite right now. So today, let's talk a little bit about dun dun dun. People got to be free by the Rascals. I wonder, are they the same end as the Young Rascals?
Probably not.
I think they actually are. I can't remember why they changed the name, but I'm pretty positive it's the same band.
Maybe they just weren't young anymore.
Or were they ever really young, Liz?
Is anyone ever really young?
I don't know. Our kid's getting older. She had a birthday yesterday.
So I've been told.
I see. Are you really taking this to the extreme now? I'm going to pinch you, and we're going to see where this goes. I'm pinching her, folks. She's looking displeased at me. All right, so let's start here. All the world over, so easy to see. People everywhere just want to be free. Listen, please listen. That's the way it should be. There's peace in the valley. People got to be free. What do you think about that first line, Liz?
Yeah, I think that's accurate. I think people want to be free.
Do you really, though?
Yeah, I do.
Because I don't.
Okay.
I think there's we talked a bit about this with a guest we're going to have up here. Maybe a while, so if you're part of the Freedom Choir, you could be listening to the full raw interview right now. But we talked about this with Jeremiah Harding a little bit. I don't think that people do want to be free from, by and large. Like, there's some of us that want that. I think a lot of people just want fucking to be taken care of. That's what they're after.
Well, that's their idea of freedom. Perhaps people's idea of freedom is subjective.
Okay, they're wrong, but
whatever.
That's fine. Perhaps if we look at it from that perspective, they do all want to be free, and their idea of freedom is locked in a cage with pellets of food being handed to them.
Yeah, but they don't have to pick the pellets, and they don't have to clean the cage.
Your freedom sounds like slavery by other means.
Yeah, it does. I'm not arguing that.
Is this going to be some Rick and Morty shit? I mean, it just sounds like slavery with more steps.
Yeah, basically.
And it's hands down one of my favorite lines in that show. Rick, it just sounds like slavery with more steps. And they just keep doing it.
Pretty much.
All right, why don't you throw the verse back at me?
You should see what a lovely world this would be. Everyone learned to live together. Seems to me. Such an itty-bitty thing should be. Why can't you and me learn to love one another? And then we go back into all the world over. So easy to see. People everywhere just want to be free.
Of course, it comes back up.
But yeah.
People of the world just want to be free. Dun, 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 dun. It's got a great riff, a bunch of great riffs in that chorus.
So do you think that's our issue? We just need everyone to learn to live together?
No. I mean, personally, I do not think that. I think that, I guess, depends what you mean by live together.
Okay.
I think the idea of us all having one homogenous culture is retarded and not useful.
Sure.
However, I do think that there is something to be said for just, hey, you guys live in the next town and you want to host orgies and stuff. I'm going to go hang out with you guys, and all these conservative Christian folks are going to do their thing. And that's cool.
Okay.
But let's just not shoot each other.
Okay.
I guess that's the extent of living together that I think needs to happen.
Fair enough.
So, if there's a man who is down and needs a helping hand, all it takes is you to understand and to pull him through. Aha, seems to me. We got to solve it individually, and I'll do unto you what you do unto me. Said no. Hear the shouting from the mountains on out to the sea. No two ways about it. People have to be free. Ask me my opinion will be natural situation for a man to be free. I like the way they changed that particular chorus up a little bit. Mm-hmm. They do say a few things in there that I really like.
Sure.
I'm not sure exactly the direction they're taking.
What their angle is on it.
But I definitely think that it's important. The fact that he calls it out, we got to solve it individually as opposed to some fucking collectivist method. Mm-hmm. That's very telling to me.
Sure.
You know, the idea is yeah, we got to help the man around us. I believe that, and I think that everyone on the world believes that we have to help the people around us.
Just whether or not they want to force you to do it their way.
Yes.
As part of their group.
You know, it's not charity when you steal somebody's other money to do it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
But yeah, if we individually choose to help the man next to us, I'm totally okay with that, sure. Mm-hmm. We would probably only do that if we actually had, the excess to be able to do that and still take care of ourselves. So, yeah, that would work out okay.
Okay. Let's finish it up with you, right?
Yeah, oh, what a feeling's just come over me. Love can move a mountain, make a blind man see. Everybody sing it now. Come on, let's go see. Peace in the valley. We can all be free. We all can be free. See that train over there? That's the train of freedom. It's about to arrive any minute now. You know it's been long, long overdue. Look out, 'cause it's coming right on through. Haha, yeah, yeah, yeah.
All right. So, what are your final thoughts, I guess, on this? I've got some big ones. Let's
well, why don't you just go ahead with yours?
First.
I don't really have any big thoughts, so
I'm just asking if you have any final thoughts. Like wrapping it up. What about those last verses? Anything new presented there? She's thinking deep, folks.
Is that what I'm doing? Or am I just waiting for you to say your big thoughts?
Look, Liz, you're the co-host of the show. You gotta have an opinion sometimes.
I do have an opinion, and when I have an opinion, I say what my opinion is. At this point, I don't have an opinion.
You don't have any opinions about this beautiful, beautiful song.
The entire song, I mean, it seems a little kind of, okay. We like the idea of freedom. We're not really going to define it or say anything specific about it, but freedom's good, right? Yeah, okay.
I mean, you don't find it odd that, like, apparently there was a time in America where clearly there's some definition in here, like freedom's not something that you can handle as a culture. It's something you need to handle as people individually. That's something.
Okay.
So I guess what I'm getting at, this is a fucking pop song. Look at the repetition. Like, it's not a complex idea that they're trying to pitch.
Mm-hmm.
but it's a strong one. Like, this is fucking danceable, happy pop music. This is the Britney Spears of the day.
Okay. And they get the idea of individual freedom?
Yeah.
What you're getting at?
Yeah.
Okay, right on.
Like, this is, like, you're not hearing this on the radio now. So, it really makes me question what the fuck happened.
That is the question.
I know where I'm going to sit on it. How about you?
I mean, if you're looking at it from that angle, I guess you could give it an Eric July. I was thinking closer to a Lou Bega because it seemed pretty ambiguous to me.
I mean, I think that if it didn't have that individually line, I would feel more Lou Bega about it. But I'm gonna go Eric July on it.
Yep. Okay, I can agree with that.
It's the happiest Eric July song ever.
Well, there you go.
Okay. Let's see. Let's move right along.
Welcome to I Heard This Happen, the segment for aging hipsters. Each week we scour Bandcamp for underground new releases to wow your teenage children. So without further ado, here's new music.
So, this week, and I heard this happen. What do you got for me, Liz?
I have a record called Anchors and Elephants. The artist is
I like that name.
Jenna Bell, and she's from LA.
You should probably explain her name a little bit more, because I'm looking at it and that's not how I would say, or would not think that would be.
You could say it however you want to say it. I'm sure if you look it up, you can read it, and
I guess
she might actually explain
that was
the.
My thought. Why didn't you tell them how they would look it up? Because if they don't go to the show notes, which they may not.
Okay, the name is spelled Gennah Bell. It's one of those creative spellings.
I would have actually assumed it was all one word because Jenna Bell actually is a name. Jenna Bell is kind of odd.
Well, to my knowledge, they don't actually state it in the text on the page as one name. They have a space there. And I take that space to mean that it is two names, but you can take that space however you like.
I'm not talking about the space on the page. I'm taking it as the space that you did not say when you read it to the people.
Okay. Anyway, I like that it has a singer-songwriter sort of feel. I was feeling kind of like a Sad Bastardy sort of record, and this was one of those, but a bit more interesting than some of the others I've heard. The way that she sort of does a stream of consciousness with the lyrics reminded me of Erykah Badu, or maybe Bob Dylan, or maybe Andre 3000. Just kind of the way that they just start going, and I really appreciated that, and I think they do some interesting things with the instrumentation and playing with the melody. I thought it was worth checking out. There wasn't quite as much response to it on Bandcamp as some of the other records that I'd come across, and I felt like that was sort of remiss. I want people to check this one out.
All right. Well, LA is going to get some love this weekend.
Oh, there you go.
This week from us. Because I got another artist, a singer-songwriter type from Los Angeles.
Okay.
So I'm bringing the album Topiary by Alex Jules. Album came out on March 8th. It's 12 tracks. And I'm going to say pop rock because that's kind of what I assume this type of music is. Although I'm not 100% on that. Reminds me of Ben Folds 5, Billy Joel, Wings, Todd Rundgren, Elton John, and Styx.
Nice.
And did I not put it in there? A little Supertramp even.
Okay.
So the songs remind me of classic Billy Joel. Like if I couldn't discern the modern recording techniques, I might assume it was just straight from the 70s. I can discern modern recording techniques, so it no longer sounds like the 70s. But the writing is very, very like along the lines of Piano Man or Big Shot, like that.
Nice.
While the music holds true to classic Joel, there's something almost Styx or Supertramp-esque about it. And mostly that's in Alex's tenor. There's also moments of swagger, like early Ben Folds 5 that I like.
Okay.
On my first listen, the chord changes on some of the songs were actually kind of jarring. They did, however, always kind of manage to get to a final resolution. It was definitely musically taxing to a degree,
which you appreciate because you like to think about music.
It made me work for it in a couple places.
Okay,
he went very, very like, you know, hardcore jazz inversions with modulations that are difficult.
Right on, I can dig it.
But he manages to pull them off, so. Alex Jules Topiary.
Okay.
From Los Angeles, California.
Mm-hmm.
Them fancy California kind of folks. So, okay.
Hey, how's it going? Nikki P here. Want to support the show or just give a big middle finger to Patreon? Consider stopping over to supportsll.com. Members of the Freedom Choir get access to the private Facebook group and actual physical merch. Want access to the unedited raw interviews as they're recorded way before they're released? It's in there. Is that not enough? And you want membership to Freedom Song 365? It's in there. There's even monthly bonus swag for top tier supporters. So head on over to supportsll.com. Help Liz and I get to Libertarian functions and even just cover the costs of making the show. If I'm not a good enough salesman, how about this?
Support my mom and dad and Sounds Like Liberty. Go to supportsll.com.
You heard her, folks. Join the Freedom Choir at supportsll.com.
So, on a fun note, as I was sitting here engineering last night, Irma started singing the I Heard This Happen intro music.
Nice. It's always a nice touch.
It was hilarious.
That would be hilarious.
I'm like, Irma, why do you know the song? Do you listen to the show or something? I don't know, Daddy. I hear you record stuff down here sometimes. And you managed to pick out the song.
She's your kid. There you go.
All right. So, all right. Well, we actually moved this one up in the queue because it was pretty fun. I wanted to get it out there. This is going to be our interview with the one, the only Chris Spangle.
Yeah. Oh, and as a note, we're doing a little something different with the show notes. So if you're interested in any of the stuff that he mentions on the show, you should check out the show notes because you'll probably find links and stuff.
Yeah, Lizzie's actually apparently spending time doing show notes. It's something I generally don't have the time to do. So this is going to be pretty fun.
Yep.
I'm not sure if I'll get it thrown in here, but we're really starting to work on the Support SLL page. We just have a supporter sign up this week. The wonderful Mr. Sue. His episode will be coming up shortly. But if you go to supportsll.com, you can see what we have to offer. And one of the big perks is that I put up the interviews in their raw format immediately when we're done recording them.
So no waiting.
No waiting.
You are first in line.
Like, right now, people have access to interviews that are maybe a month away from coming out.
And you could just get them right now.
And some of those interviews may or may not be over 3 hours long, like our interview with Jeremiah Harding.
There's all sorts of gold in there.
I don't know how much of that interview is actually going to be released.
Oh, I mean, we're going to be on the CIA list no matter what. So.
Well, honey, we're already on the CIA list. So, I would recommend checking it out. If you're interested in the Freedom Song 365 project, that actually is included in some of the packages. And the best thing I think everybody gets out of it is they get to support Libertarian podcasts like ours.
Mm-hmm.
While not supporting Patreon.
Well, there you go. I can't argue that.
It's worth it for that. So, shameless plugs aside, let's get to this interview with Mr. Spangle.
Okay.
I've been yelled at by listeners to stop belching when I do the show.
Just means that you're enjoying life, I think.
That means you're comfortable. That sounds like a good thing.
Sometimes you just can't help it.
I don't know that I belch that much, but I wouldn't be offended by it. That's for sure.
It's like a compliment in some cultures.
I don't know these cultures.
Usually to the food, though, which we're not serving any food, so that would be slightly odd. But
so
I was told there'd be a spread.
oh well, there is a
Technically
5-year-old
is.
birthday party happening later on tonight, but I'm not sure that it's quite the same thing.
He's look at him. He's a professional.
You didn't get my writer. I have to go.
Oh man,
Freeze up my day.
that's why I had all those blue M&Ms. That was what it was.
Check 1 2. Check 1 2. Do you want me to record my end?
If you want to, you can. You don't have to.
Well, he's got
Okay.
that fancy mixie thingy in the back.
I was gonna say, look at him. He's got all his professional fellows outboard gear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel inadequate with my tiny outboard gear.
I have a very big board.
It's not the size of the board; it's how you use it.
I used to have a huge setup, and then I didn't need it anymore. I use my H6 now for everything.
All right.
Yep, I got that about 2 or 3 years ago, and it just I had an H2 before, and the Zoom H6 though is just like the best piece of equipment. It
Does everything.
it's everything. Yeah, like I in the initial phase, because I've podcasted for like 10 years, you had to buy, you had to spend twice as much for 3 times the amount of gear, and the H6 just does everything now.
I mean, that's just audio engineering in general. Like I have an audio engineering background before I got into podcasting. I kind of fell into it just because I had the crap laying around to do it.
Right.
But yeah, my old rig, because I used to have a pre-Sonus setup with the 20 Firewire 2626 and the 16 channel expansion. But I also used to record bands and stuff like that.
Right.
And I just don't need it anymore. The fact of the matter is, like, I have an H4N also, so I can still do up to 10 tracks, and if I wanted to do a full band, I could.
Awesome.
With 2 handheld devices as opposed to a giant rig.
Ready to roll?
Did you lose a puppy?
Me?
Yeah, you're looking around a lot.
Oh, I had this cord dangling and hitting my ankle. It was just really bothering me.
That's a good problem to have. I wish I had that much dangle.
So I had to clip up this cord because it was going to distract me.
I'm going to be honest. That's a very assuming thing to have. You have a problem with, Chris. I would not have never expected.
I'm very average in every way.
You're not more popular with the Libertarian ladies. I'm surprised. Anyways, welcome to Sounds Like Liberty. How are we doing today, Chris?
I'm doing fantastic. How are you?
Awesome.
I'm barely awake. It was a late night. They're all late nights.
Always gigging.
And I come home and there's flowers hanging from my ceiling.
That's right, because it's fairyland today.
It is fairyland.
Is this like a seduction technique or what's going on?
I can only hope.
We have a 5-year-old whose birthday party is today, and we decided she wanted what's that thing called?
Ladybug?
Ladybug fairy birthday party. And so we made a bunch of like 2-foot flowers, and we hung them all from the ceiling and used streamers to make it look like stems and grass, so that when the kids walk in, they're walking through a room that looks like they're little bug-sized critters.
That's so cute. Like 5-year-old imagination. I wish we all had that level of
Right?
imagination. It's so adorable.
I wish that my 5-year-old could take credit for that. No, that's daddy's insanity.
Sure.
I woke up one day, I turned into a bug.
Yeah.
That's all that is.
I think there's
I
a
think
book
that's
about
Franz Kafka, right?
Yeah.
It's Franz Kafka. It's also the best episode of Home Movies if you've ever watched
Oh my
it.
god.
There's a rock opera that they write about about that story about metamorphosis, and it's hilarious.
I've never heard of this show.
Home Movies is Lauren Bouchard and Brendan Small. Lauren Bouchard is the guy who created Bob's Burgers. Brendan Small is the guy who created Metalocalypse.
Okay.
And also John Benjamin used to play their soccer coach. And the hook behind it was essentially you had like a drunk and alcoholic coach. All of the adults were just dysfunctional as hell, but the story was told from the perspective of 8-year-old kids who make movies. And It's honestly one of the best shows that had cartoons that's ever been on television. And
what's it on?
It was on, what was it?
It started out on like
Adult Swim?
It eventually made it to Adult Swim. No, it was a soup to nuts. Like technically it was produced by Scholastic that makes kids books.
Weird.
And it was weird, like how the whole genesis happened. By the time people got into it, it was like already over. But there was 4 amazing seasons of it. So if you ever want to have like it's pretty fairly subversive, but it's also not like you could watch with your family and they're not going to catch most of the jokes that are there. There's a lot of sight gags, like his mom loses her job and goes in, has to get drunk to take the typing test because she can't type under pressure, and then they find out that she cheats on her typing test, and you get like a guy's like, Paula, and to think I was ever attracted to you. She's like, I've met you once. Like, what do you mean?
It sounds hilarious.
It's ridiculous.
Yes.
And like you said, John Benjamin plays an alcoholic soccer coach.
Which makes way too much sense.
Yeah.
But basically, it sounds like my childhood.
I'm sure.
Right.
It's
Yeah.
certainly reminiscent of my own.
Yeah.
Anyways, so we do things a little differently on here. We could sit here and bitch about philosophy, but I'm on the what do we would call it, the
Spectrum?
the Roger Paxton camp, and so it'd just be me calling you a statist for an hour, and
I feel like I feel like I have such a bad reputation because of Roger's jokes.
Aw.
No, you have a bad reputation. You actually did represent us well on that big famous person podcast you did. So
There we go.
Frank and I'll try to be serious. Yeah, I know. I love Roger, and I feel like I when people call me a statist, I don't take it personally, because I know that like if people didn't like me or they didn't respect me, they would treat me like Bill Weld.
Right.
So
exactly.
I don't mind being like the friendly punching bag, but the reality is we're out here with We Are Libertarians creating Libertarians. Like I just did a podcast on Thursday with a kid who is a kid named Keaton called Freedom Strips, and he's like, I became a libertarian because I found your show, started listening, wanted to start my own show, and so I know we're out there creating libertarians. I just do it a little differently than I think Roger does, but Roger does everything differently because he's weird. So
no, yeah,
sure.
I respect weird. So
yeah,
but yeah, it's a fine thing. Like I think people really downplay the issues that Bill Weld had. Not to go down that rabbit hole. Like at the end of the day, my issue with the Bill Weld, it doesn't even boil down to politics so much as that ultimately where they want to take the Libertarian Party will only make it not useful. Like the larger the Libertarian Party gets, the more money that runs to it. And unfortunately, the more money that runs to it means the more bought and paid for it is. And it will eventually just become the Republican Party where the money influences it, and it's libertarian in name only.
Yeah, I think the problem is that if you're involved in politics, it's very hard to be a purist. And Roger and I had this conversation. Like if you get elected, you're sitting in an office, like let's say you get elected president, you're dealing with 250 years of statism. You're going to have to make, like I think Rand Paul and Thomas Massey and some of these guys, like you look at them and you go, well, you can't be a purist if you're in their position.
Oh, for sure. Have you watched that show that Massey does, the Swamp?
Yeah.
And just listen to him talk, and you're like, good God, it's way worse than any of us ever thought it could be. It's terrible.
Surprise, Facebook, I think took it down. It got removed.
Oh, wow.
Really? Not
yeah.
remotely surprised.
But my problem with Bill Weld is he's such a new libertarian, or so new to it, that he has that mentality of, I'm a libertarian if I check all these issues. And
it's not an issue-based philosophy.
Right. And I think everybody kind of starts there. I certainly did. And, 10 years ago, I looked at it like, well, I believe like the scales of liberty balance because I believe all these different issues. And I think he just didn't, when he spoke in Indiana, I took two things away from kind of actually hearing from his words, because you read like in all the groups and all like the Facebook libertarians, what they have to say. And you go, wow, this dude's bad. And I certainly was outraged in 2016 by a lot of what he said. But then when you hear him in context, but you can hear the speech on Raw Audio Politics, which is a podcast that we have. I took away from it going, all right, he got a bit of a distorted rap, but at the same time, the guy is incredibly boring and he doesn't understand the broad hope part of libertarianism. He doesn't know what a libertarian society would look like. He doesn't have like what Larry Sharp has, which is a vision.
Fucking charisma, I'll tell you that guy.
Right, and so there. And just the fact that if he were to run for president in 2020 for the LP, it would just have been so much of a shit show that it would have destroyed the party at a time when I think it's more fragile than ever, but also strong in certain ways. So I just was opposed to him for so many different reasons. But
I just wish that our president or whatever his name is, our chairman would stop trying to, I don't know, fuck with people that don't have a need to be fucked with.
Here's the thing. It's not just him. I mean, a man that I respect greatly, Tom Woods, loves to provoke for profit, which he's very open about. And I think those two, for whatever reason, have just such a hard-on for each other. And it's like, can I get you two in a room? Because I know them. I know Nick way more than I know Tom Woods. Yeah. But I feel like I know Tom because I listen to his show and I just have followed him forever and respect him so much. And like the two of them probably have way more in common than they think, but it's like the whole Rothbard versus Ed Crane from 40 years ago. It's just like, can we get over this shit in the party and just start working together? And that's what I love about the podcast space, is that I think the thing that's going on in the movement right now is podcasting has kind of brought together groups of people like me and Roger, maybe more of a pragmatic guy and a more purist guy, but we're on the same podcast and we can have conversations. And I think that's where the podcasting portion of the libertarian movement, I think, is so healthy for us all because it brings us together.
Oh, for absolutely, for sure. I mean, I think officially my gateway was probably Penn Jillette. I used to listen to Penn Sunday School, and he kind of started talking about the ideas. Now, I'm not gonna I'll say I was a leftist, but really, I mean, I was probably always an anarchist, and then just didn't realize there was any kind of ideology that really aligned with what I thought.
Right.
So eventually he kind of set me on a path where I ended up from him to Big J Okerson, and Big J Okerson got me to Dave Smith, and then I started listening to Tom Woods. And
that's so interesting.
The thing that always I always loved about this was that, despite what Sarek would have you believe, the idea that an ultra conservative like Tom Woods and me could see eye to eye politically was just fucking eye opening. Because at the end of the day, like, if Tom Woods, gets his Hoppian dream, I really doubt me and him are going to be in the same place. Because he wants his Christianity and I want orgies. And
you and I mean, on We Are Libertarians, we have a co-host. Her name is Sarah Brady Wagner, and Sarah is one of the smartest people I know, and she's a great co-host. But she comes from more of, I forget how she phrased it the other day, because We Are Libertarians has like 40 different co-hosts or something, and so we have my co-host Harry is an anarchist, although he's so anarchist he won't allow me to label him a voluntarist or an anarchist. And but like Sarah comes from probably more of a background like yourself, where it's more liberal, it's SJW focused in some ways, and it's and I'm much more of a Christian constitutionalist.
Yeah.
And that's the great thing about liberty, is that in the world that we want to create, we can coexist and respect each other because we have empathy for each other, and we have to have mutual exchanges with each other, but we're not trying to force each other to live. Like, I don't want to force you to live the Christian ethic if you don't want to live it, because that's
always
that's fundamentally against the Christian ethic.
It is.
And that's the fundamental thing I always get down, because I have some Democratic whatever those people, the modern commies. I have some friends, because I'm a musician, I'm from the arts, and the thing that it always boils down to is like, in my world, you can be whatever you want to be and live your life how you choose to live. Your world does not afford that to me, and that's fucked up to me. Like, you can't respect me as a person enough to allow me to live the way I want. I can give you that. So how? Like, there's no. Yeah, I
well, Dave Chappelle said it so well. He's like, how much do you want me to have to be involved in your life? How much are you going to ask me? And I think it's so true. And so
the specific wording was, how much do I have to participate in your delusion?
Yeah, and I think that's what We Are Libertarians really has become, is the promotion of the idea that your world is the 100 people that are coming to your funeral, the 100 people that you interact on a daily basis, and you don't need to give a fuck about the Covington kids. Like, you shouldn't have to care what a presidential candidate from New York State has to say about kids from Kentucky when you live in Florida. Like, that world is too big, and the reality is the world are the folks that are in front of your face, and it's not this idea that you need to care about what Putin is doing. And so the more we try to force the human brain, which is still the brain of 10,000 years ago, where we had tribes of 50 people roaming around the plains, into the idea that they have to manage and control the entire world, the crazier we're all going to make ourselves. And so it's just foolish to really try and force people to give a shit about the world when you don't need to. But the public square is the 100 people in your world, and that's it.
So what Chris is saying, folks, is go out, make friends with all of the entrepreneurs you can, and let's all get rich. And only give a shit about making money.
Wow. Okay.
Because the more money we have, the more power we have. That's
that was an interesting jump you just made there.
Wasn't it? That's what I heard him say.
That's not close
exactly
to
what he was going for, but
however, that is how I'm treating it.
No, I think money is just a shortcut to voluntary exchanges. Like, it just makes it quicker and simpler. But the reality is that empathy is at the foundation of the libertarian ethic. I think when you're involved in the world, you see people who have problems, and then you go, I have special skills to help solve those problems. And that may be homelessness, that may be poverty, but that also may be, I need to create a pencil to help you write, and so the world is you engaging in it and working with each other to solve problems. And if you can make some money while doing it, cool. But the reality is that I don't think people are as nearly as greedy as we all might think. I think really you have
all the
excess.
studies say that we're not, but
it really comes down to just what needs are in front of you, what problems do you personally need solved, and what problems do you need solving. And the government just creates so many more problems, so just get rid of it.
fair enough.
It's that simple.
Blah, blah, blah. Chris is being a nice guy. What are we going to do with that?
Chris is a nice guy.
Anyways,
Yeah.
so that's the obligatory politics part of the show. Let's talk about the stuff I like to talk about, which is music.
Okay.
What kind of music are you into, Chris? Are you a Five Finger Death Punch guy, if I were to guess?
I am not. No,
Is it John Tesh? I listen to only John Tesh.
I've had to really think about doing this show because I love music, but at the same time, I'm not nearly like you or
Don't have to
Johnny Rocket. Yeah, where like I played guitar in high school, but then I got my license and I quit because then I was trying to see girls.
I didn't.
Right,
He's like, I
absolutely.
didn't need the guitar to get laid anymore because I had a car.
Right.
I had a car, yeah.
It's changed.
So music, when you ask me like what kind of music I like, I really had to think about it. And I think fundamentally, classic rock is probably my go-to most of the
So
time.
Nirvana.
Well,
No,
that's classic
older.
now, but not
so
in
you listen
reality.
to golden oldies is what you're talking about now. Yeah, that shift happened and
like-
it was real weird. The Eagles are
I'm not-
oldies.
I'm not talking about like, Chuck Berry.
No,
to me,
that's actually classical music now. About 5 years ago, the shift happened. See, what happened was Nirvana officially became 20 years old, which is the litmus for classic rock. And so
Right,
then
okay.
Right.
the Eagles and CCR are now golden oldies. And I'm pretty sure all the stuff before that I can't call oldies anymore, so it's just got to be classical.
So I actually work at a classic rock station.
Oh, wow.
in radio, and you're in the bathroom and you hear it on the speaker, and so like you're listening, and they'll play the Eagles, they'll play Jimi Hendrix, and then they go into Foo Fighters, and you're like, what the fuck is happening?
It was a weird transition for those of us in our 30s.
Yeah, right. I'm 35 and I'm going, wait, the music that I would listen to in high school was Smash Mouth is now classic rock.
Oh, good God, that's
Yeah, it's wrong on some levels.
that's wrong on a lot of levels, Liz.
So yeah, I think so growing up, I listened to, like when I was a kid, like in elementary school, my go-to was Garth Brooks. Like
Nice.
the Thunder Rolls is my jam.
I'm looking at Chris, and there's not an ounce of me that questions any of this. So
How dare
Garth
you?
Brooks was huge in that era.
I listened to Garth Brooks at that age, so I don't know why you're acting as if this is a bad thing.
Yeah, like 90s country is the best country, and I loved it.
I'm a
But
Dwight
then-
Yoakam guy personally, but yeah, Garth was good.
yeah,
Randy
George
Travis.
Strait, Alan Jackson, Randy Travis.
Yeah,
Hell
that was
yeah.
that was my
Reba.
stuff. Reba, oh god.
Yeah, even Winona. Even sweet Winona.
Oh God.
And then in 1995, the Beatles anthology came out on ABC, and I watched that, and it coincided with me taking, like, I played saxophone in high school band, or in middle school band, and then I took a music class, and the guy played electric guitar, and I was in 7th grade. I was like, holy shit, this is awesome. And then the Beatles anthology came out at the same time, and I had my mom trade in my saxophone for a guitar, and I started listening to the Beatles religiously. Like, the Beatles anthology opened up this gateway of all the 60s and 70s rock, Led Zeppelin, Jimi Hendrix, and it just, like, the Beatles anthology was revolutionary to me in my musical formation. So I love the Beatles. I would say that they're probably my favorite band.
I'm always fascinated by the whole Beatles anthology thing, because I've definitely seen that been like the case, but like I don't remember a point in time in my life where like I ever wasn't immersed in Beatles. Because I mean I probably listened to more oldies stations as a kid than classic rock. Classic rock was ever present because I grew up in the sticks, and that's just the only station, the only format that works out there. You have the country station and the classic rock station,
Right.
and then like an AM oldies station still. And so we used to, when we go camping on the weekends, and like literally we'd pop the trunk and just run it on whatever that setting is where it auto charges itself, and just pump the oldies out for all weekend while we were camping and shit.
Right.
And so for me, the Beatles were just kind of always omnipresent in my world. And I do remember like when all of a sudden that came out and everybody was just obsessed with the Beatles. Personally,
Yeah.
I think they should have been obsessed with the Beach Boys, but whatever.
I mean, the body of work of the Beatles.
They ripped
it
off
is
the Grateful
consist-
Dead, and like they ripped off everybody. I mean, yeah, they did it. We still did it well.
I was gonna say they did a really good job.
Look, here's the thing. I would be much happier if we just
Grateful
took out John Lennon from the Beatles, and then I just got George, Ringo, and Paul. Like I could deal with that.
What are you talking about?
He's not a Lennon fan. He just doesn't like him as a person.
No, he's a terrible person. I get that. But like musically, like I think that's why they worked, is that you had the more poppy side of the other three, and then there was Lennon, who was just this dark.
Wait a minute. Are you telling me Paul is the poppy side? The guy that wrote the guy who brought in all of these soundscaping artists and like started clanging boxes together is the poppy side?
But Paul did come across as far more likable than John, for sure.
I gotta say, have you ever watched Dewey Cox or Walk Hard?
I haven't.
You have to watch it if for no other reason. The scenes where they have Dewey Cox meet the Beatles in it, and it's just a bunch of like modern comedians playing the Beatles, and,
Right.
And oh my god, like Jack Black is playing Paul McCartney, and it's Paul Rudd is playing John Lennon, and they get in a fight while they're like actually there. They meet in India is the whole idea. And they're just, what is it? He's like, blah, 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 all fucking bullshit. I'm all dark and mysterious, and I'm impish and whimsical.
Yeah, like the thing is Paul like never confuse acid and pot for a person's like that time of the Beatles in the later era. Like it was definitely experimentation, just because that's what they all did. Like I didn't grow up with the Beatles because my dad had an older sister that he didn't like, who listened to the Beatles, who was, full boomer. And then my dad's a boomer, but he wasn't like a boomer. Like he's sort of that younger boomer that just didn't get into any of that anti-war protest stuff. And my dad was kind of conservative. And so he rejected all that and listened to country and, some like Bob Seger, stuff like that. But
yeah.
So I didn't grow up with the Beatles, and then when I just fell into their catalog, starting with the early stuff, and the evolution of the Beatles is fantastic. And I think all of from that 12 years that they were really making music, I think they had the best body of work. Like, I think Pet Sounds, I agree with you. I think Pet Sounds is a superior album to even Abbey Road. But the body of work of the Beach Boys, or even the Rolling Stones or Led Zeppelin, like, they didn't have, over the course of their time together, the complete catalog that the Beatles did. Like, there's great Led Zeppelin songs, there's great Beach Boys songs, there's great Rolling Stone songs, but if you put on the complete catalog of the Beatles, there's very few misses in terms of songs. And that's just not the case with the Rolling Stones or with some of the other. And so that's why I mean,
the Rolling Stones released Brown Sugar, though, and that song trumps everything the Beatles ever put out, because it's about raping
great
slave women.
singles.
No.
I don't think that was that the intent of it?
Oh,
I mean, I'm pretty sure that wasn't the intent.
Brown Sugar? I
thought it was basically about being subversive and wanting an interracial.
No, that whole Gold Coast slave ship bound for cotton fields raised in.
Well, no. Yeah, that was the
song
angle they were
is
getting with
literally
it.
about what the fuck, like, the slave owners did to the women. Like,
Yeah.
it's literally talking about rape in most parts of that song.
Oh, jeez.
They were way.
I'm surprised that hasn't gotten a Me Too
That's a
shout out.
very good point. Like, that is one of my favorite, like, songs of that era, and it's such a bright, like, bubbly kind of song for what it's about.
But it's really subversive, the message.
Yeah, no, it's.
I'm not a lyrics person, so, like, I don't really hear lyrics. Like, I hear the music, and I think that you sound like a lyrics person who actually listens to the lyrics. But I'd sing that song and be like, "Oh, what a great melody," and then I'd never realize even.
Well, I
what
think
it was.
that's most people.
And that is most people. all the lyrics that people pour over, nobody listens to. There's a certain degree which eventually, like, I don't even like writing lyrics, but, like, I just do it because I realize that other than me, nobody probably cares what the fuck I'm saying.
It's like, I think that when you're writing lyrics like Beck, I love Beck, but his lyrics are fucking nonsense.
Devil's haircut in my mind. What the fuck does that mean? Although he wrote Deborah, and that may be the greatest song ever written.
And then they made Baby Driver, just makes Deborah even nicer. So
Deborah is off of the Midnight Vultures album, which is my favorite Beck album because it was just him making a James Brown record.
What is the morning? What is the one that he did like 3 or 4 years? Morning something.
I can't remember the name. Was it Morning Glow or
Morning Glory or something? That's my favorite album of any musical genre of all time. Like, I've listened to that hundreds of times, but I don't understand a single. Like, I connect to it, but I don't understand anything that he says in that entire album.
Like, the best thing that Beck brought to the world is the Futurama episode where Bender goes and becomes his washboard player. and there's a line in there where he goes, "Bender, that 8.5-hour washboard solo was incredible. The parts I was awake for blew my mind."
Yeah.
there you go.
That's one of my favorite moments in a TV show ever. It's just that exchange.
I'm looking it up because that's going to bug me the rest of the
Morning Phase.
Morning Phase,
That
yes,
sounds correct.
great album. Yeah,
For such a favorite album, he doesn't even remember its title.
Well, because
I
he
don't
was just
remember
in the
most titles.
zone. He was feeling it. He wasn't worried about the words, man.
That's very true. He did just get done saying he's more about the feeling and not the words.
yeah, like that whole album's just like so. Like, I'm a very sappy and sentimental person. Like, I cry weekly at a TV show. Like,
Have you watched Coco?
The feelings of that are just all there.
I'm trying to get Sherry voluntary to watch Coco.
What is it?
Coco is it Pixar?
Disney Pixar, I think. Maybe they're not together anymore. Anyway,
not.
it's one of those computer animated guys.
It is.
Yeah,
It takes place.
That's my jam.
It takes place in like Dia de los Muertos, and the kid goes into the land of the dead to find his grandfather, great grandfather, or whatever. It's what. Regardless, I bawl like every time I watch the end of that movie. I cry my fucking head
You
off.
get all the feels.
It's super emotional. Like,
That's exactly right. Like, that type of movie. Like, I think when you're a libertarian and you just bathe in how sad the world is all the time, like when the weekend comes around, I want a Hallmark movie. I'll watch a Christian movie, no matter like the worst production value for one of these movies, the more I like it.
Yes.
Like Pixar movies, like Up. I will weep it up. Forrest Gump. I cry every time Jenny dies.
So Chris's favorite movie is God is Dead.
The Kevin Sorbo films.
No, I like God is Dead 2 because it's incredibly worse. Like the production on it. Like, go watch Netflix. Go watch God is Dead 2.
I have.
It is so bad. It's
Unfortunately.
awful. And I'm just like, I love every second of this.
I love some of those for sure.
Yeah.
Have you seen Blue Like Jazz? Because that one is awesome. I love The Christmas Princess.
Yeah. Like, I'm like, what a great movie this is.
I watched that one with my kid. I watched the sequel to Christmas Princess, and that's saying something.
Even I couldn't get through that one.
Yeah. So, do you? I know that podcasts changed everything for people, so I don't listen to music even myself as much as I used to. Yeah. How does music fit into your life now? It's just kind of background. Obviously, you're at the radio. You work for a radio station, so
yeah,
it's gonna be there in some way.
It's an interesting question because I don't even really listen to a lot of podcasts anymore. Like, I don't listen to nearly as much things in my head as I used to, which it bums me out because, you know, I only get time because I'm so zoned in at work or I'm doing something that demands my focus. So I can't really have a lot of noise on in the background. So it's really limited the amount of time that I listen to podcasts or music or audiobooks, which I try to really engage in a lot of those because the more you input in your head, the more you output on the air.
Yeah.
And, you know, it depends on my mood. Like, it depends on what mood I'm in. Some mornings you wake up and you're just like, I can't listen to a podcast. I can't listen to politics. I can't listen to like maybe a sermon, or I just can't listen to something that is heavy. I need just music in the background. And I'll listen to music a lot at night before I go to bed. Like, I listen to a lot of classical music because it just kind of like helps me focus when I'm reading or when I'm winding down. Like the Spotify best of Chopin, or however you say his name. I listen to that constantly. I love that. That's part of why I love the Beck album, is that it's just so mellow that it kind of, you know, relaxes you before you go to sleep. So music mainly fits in as a relaxation tool, but then there's some times where like you're going out on a first date and you need to get fucking pumped up. So you turn on like some swagger rap, like you turn on some Kanye West. So you walk in there feeling really confident.
I use hip hop the opposite way. That's how I always got over breakups. Like my breakup song was "Keep It on the Hush" by Ludacris.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I gotta, you know what, things have ended. I just gotta remember, I'm a dick with a brain, and I'm gonna go out and sing it.
My breakup music is like, man, I'm blanking on the name.
He's just Eric Carmen bawling in a car. Why?
No, is man, Home. Trying to think of the band now, man. I'm blanking on this stuff, but anyways, so I like to listen to hard rock when I'm in the gym. You know, music that kind of, you know, it's testosterone driven. You gotta when you're in the gym and you're a fat guy, you've got to really have a lot of motivation. Yeah. So Arcade Fire is my breakup music, like that.
Nice.
You know, that sort of genre of
That's an interesting
sad
way to go with that.
I'm all about Ben Folds for breaking up because he's just pissed off and playing a piano.
Yeah. Like, I'm sorry you didn't fit in high school, but thank you for making this music.
Yes.
So,
I was never cool in school.
My favorite genre of music is 60s soul, like Sam Cooke and Otis Redding, like even into the 70s with Marvin Gaye and Al Green. But
there's a whole new, you know, how many artists are doing that stuff now even? That's fantastic. I mean, even like on the one side, you got Fitz and the Tantrums that does a little bit of it. St. Paul and Broken Bones is the shit. That's exactly what they do. You know, you've got kind of like on the more psychedelic approach to that. You got the Step Kids. Like I had a boss, my boss, tell me, "Oh, they haven't made good music in 30 years." I'm like, "No, you're just not listening." Like,
right?
There's bands making like great versions of that same crap we used to listen to back then.
Like Gary Clark Jr., for instance. How can you say that Gary Clark Jr. is not making great music? Or
absolutely,
you know, like that whole Americana, soul, blues, like there's so much great stuff that's coming out of that how could you say that great music isn't being made right now? You're just being obstinate, and like you can fuck off.
Well, no, and there's so much of that. Like One of the things that we do on our show every episode is we go on Bandcamp and we pick 2 albums on Bandcamp that we like every week. They got to be new releases, so within the last week or 2. And we generally don't have any trouble finding at least one record each that's a kick-ass new album that somebody put out and self-released, essentially. Yeah. And so to say that there's not good music out there, it just means you're an asshole and you don't care. Just say you don't care about music, and that's fine. That's the kind of person you are. You're not my kind of people if that's your answer, but that helps me weed them out quicker. It's just
like Ray LaMontagne or Sturgill Simpson. Like, how can you say that they're not making great music? They're taking country and blues and roots and like forming it into something that's kind of new but soulful, and it's just like there's the thing that I love about the internet age is that it has allowed us to kind of it's cut through the bullshit machines. Like if you listen to Christian music, for instance, and you grew up listening to Christian music, like I was forced to listen to Carmen every day in the car with my Carmen. Like I was an atheist until I was 18, and it's mostly because someone forced Carmen on me. Or country music, and the way that in the 90s and 2000s, like every genre just became so formulaic. And then when you get to the SoundCloud age, you start to see the Sturgills, the Ben Harpers, the Ray LaMontaignes, like more of that. You know, people know who Gillian Welch is now because they can find great music, and it starts to break up that bullshit machine.
They're trying like hell to end it, though.
But they can't. Like it's
look what YouTube just did, because they went and they turned they repeatedly turned their backs on all their creators for major networks. I was reading an article yesterday that they went in and changed the algorithm so that any mention of who's that, the girl from Captain Marvel?
Oh yeah.
Any
mention of Brie Larson is, unless it has news in the title, in other words, unless it has CNN or any of the major networks, you weren't going to see it, so that it could push all of the content creators talking about her out of the top searches for it.
I've noticed this, and like when I was prepping for our Venezuela episode, and
then they bragged about it.
Yeah, of course. Like the whole point of why YouTube was special was that if I was researching Venezuela, I know I can turn on CNN and get the state's position on things. But when I went into YouTube, I could find Jimmy Dore's perspective, who has on, Abby Martin, who works for Venezuela, but even though he never mentions that, like you get other perspectives. That's what makes podcasting and YouTube special, is that you don't have that filter. But when you go and you type in Maduro on YouTube, you get CNN, the French press, the BBC, you get Voice of America. Maybe you'll get RT, but it's all corporate news from the broad perspective, and it's not what made YouTube special. And they're doing that with
Tim
everything.
Pool is what made YouTube special, and they've done everything they can to demonetize him and try and deplatform him. So he was like, what's the one that I like? The weird ANCAPy blonde guy that just runs around war zones.
Oh God.
I can't. It's not obviously not We're Libertarians. It's like We Are Change, Luke.
Oh yeah. I've heard everybody likes him, but I've not seen him, and I only know Tim Pool because he was just on Rogan destroying Twitter.
And both of them were big because of the Occupy movement. Like they were guys that went and were on ground zero with cameras and doing what they could to talk to people and get perspectives on there in the fray. Luke goes across the globe. I think Tim tried to go to Venezuela during the last thing, but he got run out because, I think he's friends with Luke, and people think Luke is a terrorist because he doesn't have the standard left-wing politics.
Well, everybody should be terrified of Google announcing that they're transcribing podcasts to archive them and raise them in search. I don't want you to transcribe my podcast because I don't need your help. I don't want you creating a mechanism that will allow you to find ways to ban my podcast from directories. Like Tim Cook has made it very clear when you hear him at the ADL, the speech that he just gave recently to the Anti-Defamation League. Like, he makes it clear. You realize Apple is the reason that Patreon and all these other services are kicking off controversial creators because they don't want to lose access to the App Store. Like, for podcasting, 80% of every podcast that I manage is from Apple Podcasts app. Like, they're
for sure.
You know, even independents like Overcast are banning Alex Jones and other people. And like, I'm not a conspiracy theorist or a person that watches Alex. Yeah, like I watch Alex Jones because he's fucking hilarious. But at the end of the day, like, Alex Jones was the test case. He was patient zero.
How fucking good was that new Rogan interview?
I haven't watched it because
Chris, you're oh my god.
I know.
I don't even like Alex, and I don't like Rogan because I think he's a fucking leftist chill at this point. Like, he had some good content for a while, but he has kind of turned his back on good content to just have stupid fucking MMTers and shit on. But my god, that Alex Jones, I watched it live and
I'm basically retarded. I have to give it the attention that I desperately need to give it, and I just haven't had that time. But
oh my god.
Like, when I saw he was on, like, it was Christmas for me because of the memes and
dude.
But that's the thing that these gatekeepers don't understand is that mimetic culture. I was talking to somebody yesterday about Hollywood, and they're a comedian, and they're trying to figure out how do I make it because there's less opportunities in establishment Hollywood. And I said, you don't need them. You need a Patreon, you need a YouTube, you need a podcast, you need to do this, this, and this. And yeah, you may get deplatformed at some point, but at the end of the day, like, they can't stop us at this point.
Well, I mean, that's Dave Smith.
The memes control things.
Dave Smith, like, that was always one of the things with him and Lewis with Gas Digital, is it we did this so that they can't fucking deplatform us. At the end of the day, we have this. Like, I tell people the biggest problem that we have right now is the slow creep. They're doing it very, very intelligently. Because if they had just gone and like banhammered all these people, we would have an uproar. But the fact of the matter is that they've done it so slow. It's the frog in the pot. People don't realize how much shit's been taken away in 2 years.
The anti-vax thing, like, I'm not anti-vax, but the idea that anti-vax content is just going to be removed from the internet effectively from all these companies all at once, or Alex Jones is going to be removed all at once, or, you know, and my co-host Harry made a great point. He goes, it started with the hackers and nobody said anything because they're hackers. Then it went to the sex workers with FOSTA and SESTA, and nobody said anything because they're sex workers. That now they're working on the conspiracy theorists, and then at some point it's going to just be polite conversation. Like, the reality is that these companies are every bit government shills. Google was seed funded by the CIA. Like, they are all in bed.
You've never seen my my meme that I made that doesn't get any traction because nobody knows it. I have just a quick picture. It's Alphabet's logo, which people don't realize. Alphabet is the parent company to Google.
Right.
And so the joke was, wouldn't it be great if this is just the best troll job ever? CIA, DEA, like, and I just list all of the alphabet soup agencies.
Right.
And I'm like, this is them telling us right to our faces that this is a government organization right here.
So it's just gonna creep into everything. Like, I just went to, like, I don't know if your listeners or you guys are Christians, but like, I don't think he's really a celebrity pastor. His name's Chuck Swindoll.
Oh yeah.
But, yeah, like, you probably heard the name if you're familiar. Like, he's an older guy who's just like this very genteel grandpa type guy. And I went to his Twitter the other day, and it was blocked.
Oh wow.
And it said, this has like unusual activity and may have offensive content. This is the most inoffensive of all the Christian pastors of all time. Like, he is intentionally genteel, and he has a Twitter block on his account. You can get to it, but you have to click accept. Well, that's subtle programming to say there may be offensive content. Don't listen to him, because he probably said something about maybe homosexuality or trans people on Twitter at some point, and he got blocked, and so you have to have a gate. Like, if you don't think that they're coming for the countercultures in, like, the main predominant culture is liberal progressivism, liberal values. And if you're conservative or libertarian or Christian or, you know, even just weird, like, they're coming for you eventually. It's just a matter of time, and it's sooner than you think.
Well, for me, like what you're talking about with Google, but I think that the real signal to me was when you find out that Tor was a fucking CIA thing the whole time.
No shit, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, basically the whole Tor thing was funded and had a backdoor by the CIA from the beginning, and that was just part of its design. It wasn't something that like happened. It was supposed to do that. And it came out, maybe it was 2 years ago, I think that news came out, and I'm like, well, if that's the fucking case, because that was like the place that you went to try and stay underground for most people, and then finding out that whole thing is just fucking bullshit, and they've been monitoring everybody. Yeah, like this is way worse than anybody fucking realizes when that's the case.
Yeah.
The reality is these big companies want to be controlled by the government because it cements their position, and they're everybody. Well, it's property rights. Like fuck that. Like I agree, but at the same time, like I was on the leading edge of libertarian voices saying, hey, Austin Peterson shouldn't be banned. Wake up. Alex Jones shouldn't be banned. Wake up. And I took so much hell, especially from you Mises Caucus people, saying property rights, property rights, property rights. So they're like, I agree, but don't you fucking get it? Like, we're going to be taken out of the public square unless we fight back in this moment. And I don't think libertarians did a good enough job at those moments, rising up and showing our power and just gnashing our teeth.
And here's the thing: this is where we would differ on the political side of it. Is that I agree, I will stand up for the property rights of piece of shit companies forever, including the Googles. The whole point is there's no changing what's happening. Like, the fact of the matter is, libertarianism is such a small voice. The number of people that really care. We're so drowned out by like you said, the progressive culture that we're not going to change anything. What will happen is it's going to collapse under its own weight. That's the only thing that can happen. Go
ahead.
That's why from the Mises Caucus, but like I guess I can't speak for everybody. I know most of the guys that I know in there I genuinely feel like some form of collapse is inevitable. And so for the idea of the playing party politics, like really what I care about is when that collapse happens, that there's somebody that says, hey, over here, we've been telling you about this shit for years. This is how it really is. And it's why I don't think like the Bill Welds or like a libertarian is never going to win the presidency. And if they do, they're not a libertarian. That's just the bottom line. Culture, people in America, like we do not have the civilization to support that idea. Freedom is terrifying.
We'd immediately erect exactly what we have because that's the culture that we live in.
Exactly. And, that's... Yeah, you can get into the whole party politics of that bullshit. But
well, I mean, I in some ways I agree with you, and there are days where I'm like, yeah, you're totally right. But then there are other days that I go, do you understand the power of memes and that libertarians of all stripes, shapes, and forms really control meme culture fundamentally? Like the left can't meme. They're terrible at it.
God doing here.
Conservatives are getting better at it, but really libertarians in the broad term, in the broad sense of that meaning, maybe not the libertarians that we know, but just kind of libertarian leaning people. And I think Gen Z is a very libertarian leaning. So are millennials. Like for all the talk about millennial outrage culture, like you look at the numbers of exit polling in terms of like here in Indiana, Lucy Brenton was the libertarian candidate. CNN did exit polling, which is the most accurate form of polling. And over 40, she got 1% of the vote. And under 40, she got 10% of the vote. And it was like 12% for Gen Z. So it is moving more and more libertarian. And that's sort of my criticism of the movement on Bill Weld has been, Roger Paxton on our bonus show, The League of Liberty, goes, well, Bill Weld didn't build the party because all those people left. And I go, why the fuck do you think they left, dumbass? Because people don't hear Bill Weld is a statist piece of shit and fuck him and get the fuck out. People don't hear, oh, wow, that guy hates Bill Weld. They hear, oh, wow, they hate me. And so we focus so much on change. We focus so much on tearing the government down. We focus so much on the things we hate that we aren't giving a good enough vision of the future and what a voluntary society will look like. And that's what's going to change the hearts and minds. That's what's going to inspire people to stand up. And we can do that because we control the production of memes. And
that's where that's the turnaround I'm looking forward to say. And that's why I love guys like the Fadcast and what we're doing here is that politics is secondary. At the end of the day, I want to have a world with people I want to have a world with, and we can all we can all bitch and moan about what that world's going to be like. I want to create better people for it. We have to remember that we have to function within humanity, and I think all too often people see libertarians as screaming autists. And frankly, I'd rather talk about fucking music than politics any day. That's
a huge part of what We Are Libertarians is too. Like I worked for the Libertarian Party of Indiana as a full time when I started this podcast 7 years ago. Yesterday was the anniversary, and it was because I recognized that direct action politics wasn't going to get the job done. I had worked in talk radio, and I'd seen more minds and hearts change. Like I've been more successful at creating libertarians by going on comedy podcasts than I've ever been by going out and working for the Libertarian Party, because people have their defenses up. It's, and I take issue with
and I
the
just
friends.
I hear Roger just going, "Fucking told you." God damn.
Well, yeah, but like Roger and I agree on a lot of stuff. We also, there's a little bit of pro wrestling to it, but I do want to say,
sure, that's why I like Roger.
When it comes to Friends Against Government, Bird and Carr are the Bob Barr and Bill Weld of the Libertarian movement, and I want everyone listening to tell them I said so.
Oh man, shots fired.
Yeah, geez.
He's definitely punching down there. I thought that wasn't the rules. You can't punch down.
No, I love those guys. I love those guys, but I love fucking with them. And so I went on their show and I gave them a list of 7 things they needed to do.
I remember listening to that list. I'm going to be honest. When I first listened to your podcast, I was kind of like, I don't know if this is for me. I think I listened to it on a day when you had like somebody who is not quite at the libertarian litmus that I'm at. And I'm like, oh, this is some status shit. I don't know about all that. And I don't even think you might have been on the episode, or if you were, it was like one where you weren't like the voice leading it.
Right.
And I was like, I don't know about this. And then I listened to you on fucking the Fadcast, and I'm like, oh my god, this guy's hilarious. This is great.
Well, I'm proud of those guys because they took my advice, and I really take credit for all of their success. I made them, and I don't feel that I get enough appreciation from those two for doing all that I did for them.
Well, I'm doing my best to ride their coattails, is all I'm saying.
Yeah. The thing about We Are Libertarians is that there's a lot of different voices, and what I don't do a podcast for libertarians. I actively tell people that because I don't like libertarians.
And I think that's clear. Like, I honestly, I do. And I don't think that that's a bad thing either. Like, that's why, as much as people give Stapleton shit, which is usually for, personal reasons that I don't know anything about.
All right.
He is a good soft landing in some respects for people.
Absolutely.
Like, look, trust me, like, my little brother's a cop and fucking puts up with me. Like, he's honestly probably one of the more pro-liberty people I know. He's not clearly at the place like me or Roger are. But he'll also laugh at all the cop memes I send him. I had a wonderful conversation with him the other day about shooting dogs, and he was asking. I made a joke about about it. And he's like, well, is that why I had to go to a training about this last week? Like, I mean, Lance, they kill like 200 fucking dogs a day in America, the police. Like, yes.
See, it's the fucking power of memes. I'm not kidding about that. The power of memes is real. Like, cops, the sentiment towards police in this country is being turned because of Chris Dorner memes, which are my favorite. Like, if you have good Chris Dorner memes, send them to me.
He left. I can't remember. I've sent him a couple of them. He just died laughing. And he's like, I would absolutely let a person go if they ever said this to me. Like, there's no question about it. That's hilarious. But unfortunately, not all cops are my little brother. So
yeah, they take themselves very seriously. I think stuff like that, I love Sal the Agorist and his memes, but sometimes it's like, bro, ease up on the cop killing memes. Like, you don't we find them funny.
I never advocate killing cops. I will say that.
Yeah. You're gonna like marginalize yourself if you go too hard on that kind of stuff. Like, you have to have a good balance, because you have to, like, if your goal is to just like, I don't know Mance Raider, but I feel like Mance is definitely in that vein of like, I want to talk to libertarians, which is you need people edifying the faithful, and then you need people more like a Brian Nichols or a Jason Stapleton who are out on that more leading edge, who are talking to the normies. Like, we need all of that stuff, and we need all those people to get along.
Well, Jason made a good change, I think. He actually focuses less on the politics and more on the going out and trying to affect change, which generally for him, his worldview is definitely that freedom is money, and the more you have, the more free you are. Because ultimately, I mean, there's a certain truth that in the way the world is constructed, you have more opportunities to deal with less shit the more money you have. You can make problems go away with more money. Maybe that's not the best way of doing it, but it is the way that the world is constructed. So
yeah, and I look at it, and I really was influenced by Mary Ruart. I look at personal growth as the key to liberty. Like, if you are growing as a person in the essential areas of life, your physical life, your emotional life, your mental life, your spiritual life, your work life, like if you're taking care of your business, the more effective you are, the better we will be as a country. Like, the best thing you can do for liberty is take care of your family. Like, that's, I think, the most essential, like, obviously the individual is the foundation of libertarian principles, but the extension that, like, man can't live alone. Like, you take care of your family and you're going to be solid. Now, that's interesting coming from a divorced single guy with no kids, but I've had to learn the value of those things the hard way.
There's that.
So I think, and then Roger Paxton has the same philosophy, and I think that's where, as libertarians, we're all going to get, like, the government. The more we ignore it, the better off we're going to be, and the more we focus on our worlds, the better off we're going to be. And I think that's a very attractive message.
Here's a question for you. I mean, do you think we spend so much time fighting amongst ourselves because we have, like, outwardly we're given we're given a mandate by anyone you would talk to? Well, what's your proof of concept? Explain to us exactly how every aspect of the world is going to work, or we're not going to believe you. Because that is generally how, like, the outside world, what responds to libertarians in most cases is, I'm never going to buy what you say unless you can explain to me every facet of how the world is going to work. And so we sit here bickering amongst ourselves to try and crowdsource what that part of things is, when that's the least important part of it. Like, frankly, half the time it's like everything that they throw, well, this is going to happen. I'm like, well, that's already happening. Well, this is going to happen, already happening. Everything that you fear happening already happens. And I can guarantee you we'd have a lot less of it if somebody didn't have a monopoly on violence.
Yeah, I think we fucking love gossip as humans. I think we want to know, like, what's the intrigue between Tom and Nick.
About Karen and Harlow's?
What's going on between Mance and Jason? Like, we love that bullshit.
I'm standing by. Mance and Jason was a fucking advertising campaign. I'm standing by.
I don't know, man.
That's pro wrestling.
People want to know, like, do Roger and Chris really hate each other? The answer is no. Like,
that list of things that you told Bird and Carr, that's basically all the shit that went on between Jason and Mance. So
good.
Like, literally, Jason's podcasting course in a nutshell was exactly what happened.
You have to have some drama from an entertaining standpoint, but at the same time, like, you have to recognize, as a thought leader, as a leader of people, like, what I say behind a microphone does impact people who don't have 15 years experience broadcasting like I do. And so so you have to realize that when you do shit, your people may not be as good as the inside jokes as you might be. And that can cause real damage to the movement if you're not careful about it. And so I think we have to stop focusing on, and it goes to the larger point. Like, there's some benefit to talking about some of the culture war stuff. There's some that's when people are listening, and that's what people are paying attention to. But at the same time, you can't get so carried away by Covington kids that you end up alienating people. Like, we have to really think about how we message and how we invite people to listen to us. And are we inviting people to listen?
Who were you on the other day that I was listening to, and I really liked your episode? I can't remember.
I've done, like, that, Frank. Like, I have always bemoaned the fact that nobody invites me to do podcasts, because I don't do guests. I don't do guests really. Like, I'm not like Lions or Johnny, where they have people on, and so it's like, oh, you can come on mine. Like, nobody invites me on their podcast, and it's always grinded my gears a little bit.
Well, so, I've had people. I've had how many guests on my show, and I think I've only ever had 2 people invite me on their podcast. I feel kind of lonely over here. I'm not gonna lie.
I'll invite you on We Are Libertarians at some point to sit in. Like, so I've never done it, but then when I went on Frank and Al on Frank Caliendo's podcast, like, that opened the floodgates. Like, I did one Thursday with Freedom Strips. I did a conversation between me and Dave Houston on Frank and Al, where he was like, I'm curious about libertarianism. And we just kind of did a Socratic 2-hour, like, what's your hang up with it? And we talked through it.
I guess
Freedom strips. You might be thinking of The System Is Down with Dan Smotes.
that is probably the one where it was.
Yeah.
Dan Smotes. That's an interesting pronunciation. Well, I mean, I'm wondering if in that case, like, if people just expect, since they don't hear you doing podcasts, they just assume you don't do guest spots. There's a lot of weird, like, clicky ways in which people just kind of, like, I just found out about the Fadcast a couple months ago. And they'd been doing it for a year, and somehow I had no fucking clue.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird, the stuff that you don't know until, like, they're doing Chris goes out and does podcasts. Well, shit, I gotta have him on then.
I'm driving 2 hours south of here to do a podcast, like a local focused podcast, and then maybe 50 people listen to it. But I'm willing to do it just because, like, if somebody asks me to do a podcast, I'm going to say yes, because it's like you would have never really listened to We Are Libertarians had you not really heard me on other shows.
For sure.
Like the show that you like. And it does nothing but expose people to kind of what I'm saying. Like my main core, one of my main goals with We Are Libertarians and in the libertarian movement is for us to get along. Like there are people that I don't like Joshua Smith, but at the end of the day, like you're not going to like everybody, and everybody's not going to like you. Like in turn, he does not like me, and that's okay. We don't have to get along, but like it doesn't mean that we can't work together, or you can't honor the fact that Joshua Smith has brought a lot of people to the libertarian movement. Like like you have to respect other people's work, and I think that's really one of the things. And so going on other shows and talking about this stuff, like, you know, Mance and Roger and you have your certain way of doing things. Jason, myself, others may have our way of doing things. Like if you're a Libertarian Party person or a Republican Party person, it doesn't matter. Like as long as you just respect that somebody's trying to make a difference, like respect that. And I think that's something that I really want to try and do. And so I love going on shows like this to be exposed to new audiences, to say, like, think about how we talk to each other, because that's how the world is perceiving us. And we can get along no matter our differences in beliefs or differences in approach. Or, you know, Roger and I don't disagree a lot on substance. We disagree on style. And that disagreement on style doesn't mean that we have to be enemies. Like we can be friends and work together, and I promote his show, and I'm sure he sometimes promotes mine.
Just to be clear, he has a much better catchphrase.
Which is what?
Fuck them in the neck is a much better catchphrase.
Yeah, I think that might not be the same style, though.
Right. That's definitely not my style. I've never fucked anyone in the neck.
I bust his balls about it everywhere I can. Like, it's honestly, him and my dad are the only people I've ever heard use that.
It's such a weird term.
It's so fucking hilarious.
I asked him to explain it on a League of Liberty episode, which is a bonus for our, and I was so disturbed by the description of what it meant that it wasn't even like throat fucking. It was like literally like, I'm going to cut your throat and pull your tongue through so it's lubricated. I'm like,
is it a Panamanian necktie?
Right.
That's problematic. All right. Anyways,
let's wrap this up with
the big question.
I guess the big question.
You don't want to end on throat or on a.
Oh no, if we want to get back to throat fucking, we can totally do that too. I'm into it. Remember, I'm the degenerate of this whole thing. I'll own it.
But no, what the big question that we usually ask folks is, if you had 5 records that you could recommend that people just like need to have been exposed to in their lives, what would those 5 records be and why?
Well,
he's gonna choose Enya for at least one of them.
No, I do remember my high school sweetheart. She loved Enya, so that does bring back fond memories.
Nice.
Well, obviously, I've said my favorite album, which is what's the name of it?
Oh, the back album?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Morning Phase.
Morning Phase.
You know, that's one of them. I think Pet Sounds is definitely on that list as an out. Now, you're talking full albums, not just songs.
I mean,
preferably albums.
If that's the way you consume music, yes.
Yeah. I've had people give me Spotify playlists because they don't listen to music like I listen to music.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely have like those songs that like if I'm in at the end of my life, but then like if you're talking records, it's Morning Phase, it's Pet Sounds, it's Abbey Road, it's
no fences.
No, probably the greatest hits of Jimi Hendrix.
I just imagine that Chris gets real hype anytime Standing Outside the Fire comes on.
I don't know that song. So.
He's full of it. It's like one of those Garth Brooks hits.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
That was
Okay,
off,
yeah.
that was off of
Yeah.
in Pieces, I believe.
Try to listen to Tomorrow Never Comes and not weep like a
Oh,
baby.
God.
Or unanswered prayers. Sometimes I thank God.
I would then say, I'm gonna have to go a Spotify playlist. I'm gonna go back. So we're talking Beck, Abbey Road, Pet Sounds, and I'm gonna say the best of Sam Cooke on Spotify.
It's a damn fine list.
And then I may kick off Jimi Hendrix and put a Christian album on there because I really like Kim Walker-Smith of Jesus Culture.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've ever had a Christian album put on there, but her playlist, like, I love her voice, and I wish that I could do anything with the passion and power that she sings. Like, she's got maybe one of the most amazing voices I've ever heard. So that's I want to diversify it. So I'm going to kick off Jimmy and put on.
Okay.
I mean, for the record, I think I've definitely had Silence by Blindside on one of my lists, haven't I?
Yeah. I mean, mine was like Rich Mullins and Skillet, and there was a bunch of stuff.
For the
on there.
record, I have no connection to Christian music whatsoever, but I really like that Blindside.
You like
record.
Blindside, yeah.
It's really dark.
Yeah. I haven't listened to a lot of Jesus Culture, though, so that is pretty cool to have that on a list, because I didn't get into the whole worship as
She's one of these
music
weird
thing.
Christians that married a heathen, and it's it's
Right.
the whole
Well,
thing.
but that's that coexisting thing that we're talking about. Like, you don't have to believe
you
as
tolerate
as Tom
my
does.
extreme whiteness, and I tolerate your deeper cultural whiteness.
I never have gotten in, like, I like Crowder, and I never have gotten into Christian music either, but I heard In the River one day, which is the song, and, like, if I were on my deathbed, I would listen to two songs. I would listen to Not Afraid by Jesus Culture, because obviously I'd probably be afraid. It's just like a very comforting song, but also powerful. Like, you listen to Never Afraid and you're just like, you can do anything afterwards, especially if you're a Christian. And then I would listen to Simple Song by the Shins.
Nice.
Because Simple Song by the Shins just is everything that I want in life, and I just love that song, and I've listened to that probably more than any other song in my life. So those are probably my two go-to.
I think I'd probably listen to Keep It on the Hush on my deathbed.
You probably would.
Just saying.
We've already talked about your deathbed plans.
Well, no, it's on my deathbed plans. I am fully aware that I will never get my deathbed wish, which is I want to be cremated, baked into bread, and eaten by my family.
Yeah, no, I'm out.
You're like, nope,
Well,
nope.
Chris, good thing you're not my family.
Yeah.
Just for the record, I'm pretty sure all of my family's like, yeah, fuck you, you're a lunatic.
I take communion weekly, but somehow I'm so creeped out by your.
Yeah, that's a different
Well, just for
level.
the record, like, that's I think what's really funny about this is that is super creepy. But you have Catholics and many religions around the world
Yeah.
that absolutely believe that they are ingesting the body of Christ
Totally going
once a
with it.
week, and yet my desire to be baked into ash, fucking soot, is totally this is totally a freaky thing. No, you guys are just fucking. You have whatever cognitive dissonance you need to have to get through life.
I mean, you're going to be where you're going to be.
I'm just
so
saying,
it's
if I
whatever.
ever had anybody ask me, I'd totally do it. We did forget some questions in there, but I think we're good. I got to get to work. we got to finish up this kids party. Because it was a lot of fun having you on, man. It was.
Hey, I enjoyed it. I'm glad we
Thank
could
you,
make
yeah.
it work.
Anytime you want to come on and bullshit about ridiculous stuff, you let me know.
Totally.
All right, I will.
You have yourself a good day, man. Peace.
You too. Bye.
Wait, real quick. We should probably do some plugs, shouldn't we? I mean, he did mention his show.
Yeah, let's do plugs.
Yeah, let's get like an introduction in there. Let's. Yeah, if you want to follow We Are Libertarians, we're on literally every platform for now. So just go look for We Are Libertarians
Until I
on
send
any
this
podcast platform, YouTube. However you listen to podcasts, we're there. We've got a bunch of different communities, Facebook groups, Discord, book club that we've got going on Goodreads. Like, we go to wearelibertarians.com and you can grab all of it. We've got a bunch of different shows. So yeah, please check us out, and we'd love for you to give it a listen. So not every episode. I mean, we have a variety we have 5 days a week worth of content, and some of it you're gonna want to listen to, and some of it you're not. But start with the main show and check it out, please.
Awesome, boss. Well, like I said, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely. Take care, guys.
Like, oh shit, yeah, let's actually play this show.
Climb to your rolling, run till your heart can't